Hey up YouTube, welcome to the latest video. I hope you are all doing well. Today I'm going to be talking all things training splits, the best one, the most optimal one for you, and which one you should probably be following. So stick around and let's get into the video. Obviously, before we get going, make sure you've dropped this video a like, make sure you've hit that big red subscribe button. Obviously, it's going to massively help out the channel, help out the growth, help me to reach more people, and hopefully give people a bit of a shining light on their fitness journey and enable them to thrive just as much as I want you to be able to thrive at the same time. As I said at the start, this video is all going to be about training splits and everything that I've learned over the years, and then now how I educate my clients and the way that enables them to perform at their best, feel the fittest they've ever felt, feel the strongest they've ever felt, and ultimately feel healthier than they ever have done, and continue to level up on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of obviously training splits, I want to get one thing pretty clear and one thing across to you. And that is that I want you to ditch the bro splits and start training movements instead. When you focus on movements and progressive overload in said movements, I'll take you through in a second. When you focus in progressive overload in those movements, you're going to see far more bang for your buck on a strength and fitness base than you ever will by following some boring chest, shoulders, back, arms, legs routine. So you've got 7 main movement patterns that I want you to focus on, with one added extra that's important to not overlook. That is your squat, your hinge, so obviously a deadlift, your lunge, which is a single leg movement. Then you have a horizontal push and pull, i.e. push, pull, vertical, push, vertical, pull, and then a core slash carry. So something that's involving a full dynamic movements that's going to train all our core muscles, not just those showy abs that in reality won't do anything for us in the functionality of everyday life. Obviously, you can take a lot with these movements. There's a lot that you can do as a form of squat. There's a lot that you can do as a form of hinge, as a form of lunge, as a form of pushing and pulling, core movement. There's a lot that you can create and develop through that, but the main thing I want you to focus on is those movement patterns to be at the forefront of your training program. Now, when we look at breaking things down into an actual training split and what you should follow and what's going to benefit you the most, the biggest thing, obviously, when we look at this is that what you follow has to fit your lifestyle, right? There's no point in setting you 5 days a week, but you can only manage 3. You need to find what works for you, and that's that cliche thing to say, but it is pretty bang on, that the best training split is the one that works for you. The training split that I follow, the one that I adopt for myself, isn't the same one that I will give to clients, isn't the same one that, and one client won't have the same thing as another client, because it needs to fit that person's life. It needs to be the way that they can still do those things in life that are important. Obviously, work is going to be a big dynamic of that, but there is then an area where we can focus on the gym, and it's not something that's actually then going to have a negative feeling towards it, because you have that time that you can dedicate towards your training. So if you're someone who's very busy, you've got a minimal time on your hands, and training needs to have a little bit of a back step, or even say if you're a bit more of a beginner and you're getting into the gym for kind of in that first year of training, the best thing I would suggest for you is a 3-day training split. So that would be making sure you're going in and doing full body sessions on those 3 days. So likelihood is a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Friday. That's going to be the easiest way to stick to. Then you're going to have a Tuesday and a Thursday as rest days, and then Saturday, Sunday as your rest days as well. If you've got a little bit more time on your hands and you decide, I want to do 4 days a week, then that's when I would suggest following a upper, lower, full body. So now this is going to allow you to do, say, focus on the squat, the hinge, and the lunge in one session, then focus on pushing and pulling in another session, and then we've got those full body workouts where we can focus on combining a lot of those things, bringing in those cores and carries. It's also going to give you enough rest through the week. If you are to do 5 days a week, I would now suggest bringing in a cardio day, a conditioning day, a day where you don't use too much heavy weight, so it's a little bit of less of a fatigue on the central nervous system, but also then just allows our body to recover a little bit. So we can use a cardio/conditioning day where we can focus really on that cardiovascular health, really focus on our aerobic capacity, all the fitness elements, and bring in a lot more rowers, bikes, ski ergs, like all the functional movements that's going to allow us to get as fit as possible. And we can bring that into a day where then we can focus, where we're not actually going to affect either session, say before it or after it. Now, if you're someone who is very involved in your training, you've been training for a long time now, and you have a very good knowledge and understanding of your body, what works well for you, what doesn't work well for you, and then you can afford to, say, train 6 times a week, that's when you need to be a little bit more selective about what you are doing. So obviously you need to make sure that we're not doing a similar movement one day, then the following day doing exactly the same thing, because that's going to fatigue us more and we're not going to be able to get the most benefit from it. But if you're doing that, then you just need to be sensible and you need to be managed in your approach. That's something that I personally do. So my personal training plan, if anyone actually cares, but on a Monday it's very focused towards squatting and then bench press and then a conditioning workout. Tuesday is then heavily focused on overhead movements. So I do heavy push jerks, strict presses, push presses. So now it's all things in that vertical push movement. Wednesday then is very much a pulling day. So then I will look at snatching, rowing, like anything where I'm doing a lot of pulling exercises. Then Thursday will always be a bit of a cardio day, a conditioning day. Sometimes I do it as an active recovery. So I'll do a zone 2 day where I basically go on the bike and I hold my heart rate at a zone 2 based off my maximum heart, and try and then sustain a max wattage on the bike around 30 to 50 minutes, depending on how I'm feeling. And then Friday will be a bit of a squat/hinge day. So again, bringing in back squat and front squats, now bringing in deadlifts. And then Saturday is kind of like everything. Saturday is a big session for me. And then Sunday is just a complete rest off. So I will try and go for a walk or try and do something where I'm quite active, but it's something where then I just fully rest my body up on the Sunday. And then the Monday I go in back ready for attacking the gym. Obviously, when you're looking at it, you don't have to do upper and lower. You could do full body 5 times a week, but you just have to be careful about your approach. As I just said before, thinking like, right, what movement have I done on Monday? Let's try and not do something similar on a Tuesday. So for example, on that Monday, you could follow quite squat heavy, and then on the Tuesday, go and do something that's a bit more upper body. So you're now resting up the legs, but now you're doing a little bit more upper body. But when you then say bring in your metcons and your conditioning elements, that's when you can look at it and go, okay, well, it's going to be lighter, it's going to be less fatiguing, it's going to be a bit more, it's going to be much more fatiguing on the lungs. So that's when you can be a bit more varied in your movement selection, so that it's not going to really have that much effect on your strength work the following day. Hopefully all of that makes sense. I want to now just run through how I have learned over the years which is the best way to structure a session. Things that I definitely didn't used to do in the past, i.e. warming up quite significantly, but just a really, really good, solid workout structure that's going to enable you to put a very good workout plan together. That is to form a mobility protocol at the start of the workout. That is going to be based on the movements you're about to do. So I like to plan my strength focus on that day first. So say if you're squatting, you're hinging, you're pushing, you're pulling, depending on what you're doing, then I will go back and I will create a mobility protocol. So if, say, I'm doing a squat, I'll make sure my hips are warm, my ankles are warm, I'm opening up, obviously my thoracic as well, my upper back, things like that, that's going to allow me to get into a better front squat position, or if I'm back squatting, depending on what I'm doing. But just a mobility protocol that's going to allow myself to get in better positions when I then go into my strength work. Then I look at a bit of a movement prep. So again, keeping the squat in the example, after I've done a bit of mobility work, I've opened myself up, it's then looking at bringing in like a goblet squat or doing some lunges, and then going on a bike and just getting the heart rate going, opening up the lungs, bringing the blood flow around the body, and just things that are going to fully prepare you for that session that you're about to do. So you'll go through your mobility work, you'll go through a movement prep, then you'll work through your strength depending on what you do. I personally like to do 2 pieces, sometimes 3, depending on what you're particularly working on. Then always followed by a bit of a Metcon conditioning work. That's when we start bringing in elements of what we've just done. So again, if it's a squat heavy day, then I quite like to bring in something into that for the Metcon. Like bring in wall balls, box step overs, things that are going to complement the strength work. Then what we look at is bringing in accessories. So this is a bit more bodybuilding focus, a bit more like pure just hypertrophy, and things that are going to, again, complement the strength work that we've just done, complement the Metcon work that we've just done, but allow us to ultimately do everything possible to stay injury free, but ultimately help to create obviously more muscle hypertrophy and just create more density in our muscles that's going to help us in the strength and in those Metcon pieces as well. Hopefully that makes sense to obviously run through that quickly again, so it just makes a bit more understanding. You've got your warm up, i.e. mobility, movement prep. Then you'll go into your strength piece, which will be based on one of those movement patterns I said at the start of the video. Then you'll go into a bit of a Metcon / conditioning, something that's going to test ourselves aerobically, that's going to be to do with the similar movement patterns. Then we're going to go into our accessory work, which is going to really complement everything we've just done to help us stay injury free and build more muscle. And then that's also going to be a nice way to just cool us down before we leave the gym, and we're not leaving the gym on our hands and knees having just done a spicy Metcon, and we can actually go home feeling nice and fresh, ready for the following day's session. Hopefully this helps you. Hopefully you can take a lot away from this. The big thing I always want to get across to you is that if you aren't currently following a training plan, please make sure you do so. You're going to see far more benefit in yourself, in your training, in your strength, in your fitness, in your mobility, everything like that, if you follow a plan and you have structure to work through and follow through. Honestly, like I've been there before where I didn't follow a plan and I just used to eyeball it. I used to freestyle as I walked into the gym, and sure, I made some progress, but I'd have made a lot more progress if I followed a plan. And that's something big that I teach every single one of my clients. It's like, we have a plan in place so that on the good days you have something to follow, but on the bad days you have something to follow. It's easy when you wake up and it's cold outside, it's wintry, and you go, can't really be bothered. But when you have that plan in place, it allows you to stay on track because you know, okay, well, that's what I've got to go and do today. And it just keeps you accountable and keeps that dedication nice and high, which is what we want to ensure that we're always smashing our goals. So if you aren't currently following a plan, make sure you use this video to create your own one. If everything still seems so overwhelming, drop me a message, like no obligation. I'll obviously help you as much as possibly can, put a bit of a program together, and then you can go off on your own and smash your training. If this video did help, obviously make sure you drop it a like. Make sure, as I said at the start, you hit that subscribe button if you are new here, and I'll catch you in the next one. I'll see you very, very soon. Alex, out.